The UN has written a report that predicts Earth's population will hit its peak at 10.3 billion by the year 2084. Now, what does this mean for our future? What are the implications of a world approaching its human capacity? Welcome to That's Life, I swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. So, global population dynamics, a paradigm shift. Why does this matter? In a groundbreaking report released on World Population Day of July 11, 2024, the United Nations called out a significant revision to global demographic projections. The world's population is anticipated to expand by over 2 billion individuals in the coming decades, reaching its peak in the 2080s at approximately 10.3 billion. This forecast represents a substantial departure from predictions made just 10 years ago. You see, the report suggests that a gradual decline will ensue following this peak, with the global population expected to decrease to around 10.2 billion as we enter the 26th century. John Wilmoth, who heads the UN Population Division and is responsible for compiling this report, emphasized the high likelihood of this scenario. He stated that there's now an 80% probability that the world's population will reach its maximum within the current century. John said, and I quote, "This marks a dramatic shift from our projections a decade ago. Back then, we estimated only a 30% chance that global population growth will cease during the 21st century." End quote. This revised data point has far-reaching implications for global policy, resource management, and long-term planning across various sectors. The report indicates a future where population stabilization and even decline may become the new standard, challenging long-held assumptions about continuous population growth. The report's findings underscored the dynamic nature of demographic trends and the importance of continuity, reassessing and updating our understanding of global population patterns. As we navigate this shifting demographic landscape, adaptability in policymaking and smart planning will be crucial for addressing the unique challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. So, demographic paradigm shift, the global population peak on the horizon. Well, let's read between the lines here. The World Population Prospects 2024 report attributes this earlier than expected population peak to several key factors. Chief among these is the declining fertility rates in some of the world's most populous nations. China, in particular, is projected to experience a dramatic population decrease, going from 1.4 billion in 2024 to a mere 633 million by the year 2100. On a global scale, the report highlights a striking trend. Women now have an average of one fewer child compared to 1990. Now, this shift is even more pronounced in over half of the world's countries and territories where the average number of live births per woman has dipped below 2.1. Now, you may think that's not much, but this figure is key as it represents the threshold required for a country to maintain its population size without relying on migration. These findings signal a profound transformation in global demographics, with far-reaching implications for economic structures, social systems, and resource allocation. As nations deal with the prospect of stabilizing or declining populations, policymakers and planners will need to adapt their strategies to address the unique challenges and opportunities presented by this new demographic reality. The convergence of academic research and UN projections underscores the importance of these findings, providing a solid foundation for long-term global planning and policy development. As we navigate this demographic transition, the focus may shift from managing growth to addressing the implications of population stabilization and potential decline in many parts of the world. As called out earlier, the United Nations report indicates that nearly a fifth of the women's population resides in countries experiencing ultra-low fertility rates. Nations such as China, Italy, South Korea, and Spain are at the forefront of this demographic shift, with women in these countries averaging fewer than 1.4 live births over their lifetimes. China, once known for its stringent one-child policy, now faces a dramatic different challenge. The current fertility rate in China hovers around just one birth per woman, a figure that signals potential long-term demographic and economic consequences for the world's most populous nation. David Hanif, UN Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development, emphasized the significance of these findings at a recent news conference. He highlighted that the revised projections, anticipating a lower global population by 2100 than expected, represents a paradigm shift from forecasts made just a decade ago. Naveed stated, and I quote, "This dramatic change in our demographic outlook carries profound implications for the sustainability of our planet," end quote. He suggested that these new projections call for reevaluating policies from various sectors, from economic planning to environmental protection. This shift in global fertility trends signals a new era in human demographics that could reshape our approach to resource allocation, economic growth, and social structures. The latest UN report revealed a seismic shift in global population trends. As of 2024, 63 countries and territories, including major players like China, Germany, Japan, and Russia, have already reached their population peaks. This group is projected to experience a significant 14% population decline over the next 3 decades, marking a dramatic reversal of historical growth patterns. The report also identifies a second wave of demographic transition encompassing 48 countries and territories. Nations such as Brazil, Iran, Turkey, and Vietnam are expected to reach their population peaks between 2025 and 2054, further underscoring the global nature of this demographic shift. However, the picture is not uniform across the globe. The remaining 126 countries and territories, which include nations such as the United States, India, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Pakistan, are expected to continue their population growth beyond 2054. For these nations, reaching a population peak remains a prospect for the latter part of the century or beyond. This diverse landscape of population trends paints a complex picture of the world's demographic future. It suggests a future where some regions will struggle with the challenges of shrinking and aging populations, while others continue to manage growth-related issues. The United Nations' latest demographic report unveiled a world of stark contrast in population trajectories. At the end of the spectrum, 9 nations, including Angola, Central African Republic, the Congo, Nigeria, and Somalia, are poised for explosive growth. These countries are projected to see their populations double between 2024 and 2054 at a rate of expansion that presents both opportunities and challenges. This rapid growth contrasts sharply with the population decline or stabilization observed in many parts of the world. However, John Wilmoth, a key figure behind the report, emphasizes that these divergent paths are a part of a broader universal system. John stated, and I quote, "While the differences in population trajectories may seem dramatic, it's key to understand that all populations are following a similar demographic journey. The variations we see stem from countries being at different stages of the demographic transition," end quote. This transition, a well-documented phenomenon in population studies, typically involves a shift from high birth and death rates to lower birth and death rates as societies develop. The process often leads to temporary population booms before stabilizing or declining. John Wilmoth insights suggest that the rapidly growing countries are earlier in this transition, while nations experiencing population decline or stabilization are further along. This perspective frames the current global demographic landscape not as a set of isolated trends, but as a complex tapestry of societies at various points along a common demographic path. Understanding this underlying pattern is important for policymakers and planners. It implies that strategies successful in managing population changes in one country might, with appropriate adaptations, apply to others at different stages of the transition. Moreover, it underscores the importance of tailored approaches, considering each nation's unique position in this demographic journey. As the world deals with these diverse population trends, the challenge lies in fostering sustainable development across all stages of the demographic transition. This may involve supporting rapid growing nations in managing their expansion substantially, while helping countries with declining populations adapt to an aging society's economic and social challenges. The global community now faces the task of navigating these varied demographic landscapes, working towards a future where population changes, regardless of direction, contribute to improving quality of life and sustainable development for all. Wilmoth highlighted several critical factors in the report. As we go into post-COVID-19, global life expectancy is rising again. By 2080, there will be more individuals aged 65 and above than children under 18. In some nations, immigration will become the primary feature of future growth. Additionally, promoting gender equality and empowering women who can help mitigate population growth. The global population has remarkably increased over the past 75 years, rising from approximately 2.6 billion in 1950 to 8 billion by November of 2022. Since then, it has grown by about 2.5%, reaching 8.2 billion. Kathleen Mogagard, President and CEO of the Population Institute based in Washington, noted that the new estimates highlight an increasing demographic divide worldwide. The report identifies over 100 countries and territories where populations have either already peaked or will do so within the next 30 years. Conversely, it shows many more, particularly among the world's poorest nations, where population growth will continue. The UN explained that rapid population growth is expected to amplify the scale of investments and efforts needed to eliminate poverty and hunger and to provide universal health care in education in countries struggling with significant economic, social, and environmental challenges. On the other hand, it was noted that countries with low birth rates experiencing swift population declines may need to adopt innovative policies to address labor markets, social protection, and national security issues. Looking ahead into the future, the report contrasts the top most populous countries with projections for 2100. So let's look at these numbers. India remains at the top of both of these lists, with China following, albeit with a much smaller population by the century's end. The United States, currently third, will be replaced by Pakistan in 2100, and then drop to sixth place behind Nigeria and Congo, which will be in fourth and fifth place respectively. In 2100, Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Bangladesh will follow the U.S., Brazil, currently the seventh most populous country, and will fall to 12th place by the century's end. The future world, when the population peaks in the 2080s, is uncertain, and population size will be just one factor among many, potentially not the most significant or decisive one. What truly matters are our behaviors and the choices we will take. So what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? It took hundreds of thousands of years for the world population to grow to 1 billion. And then in just another 200 years or so, it grew sevenfold. In 2011, the global population reached the 7 billion mark. And in November of 2022, it reached 8 billion. Raising awareness about global population issues like family planning, reproductive health, and demographic trends is becoming more critical than ever. To advocate policies for addressing population challenges, we need the governments, non-governmental organizations, and policymakers to come together to discuss policies. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. See you soon.